Pacers lose the same way they've been losing. The Clippers just score and score and score, but a lot of guys were back in this game. Cam Jones didn't play. Micah Potter got hurt. Quentin Jackson provided energy. Oh, and of course, Bennedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson. On the other side, so much to get to from LA on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, hello from my LA hotel room. I meant to record this at the arena, but I forgot I had Locked On NBA tonight, so I rushed back, and now I can finally talk about Pacers Clippers, the meeting of the trade teams, the Lottery Bowl, the first of two. Although the Clippers very much would like to win both lottery bowls. A lot to get to from this game. Of course, Bennedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson on the other side. They talked a little trade afterwards. Nothing super revealing, but still noteworthy nonetheless. The game itself had a lot of noteworthy things. Micah Potter got hurt. Cam Jones didn't play. Quentin Jackson was the energy guy back in his home state. But the story and the basketball itself continues to be the same thing for the Pacers. I wondered if this would be different. Siakam back. Nesmith back. Nembhard back, Jay Huff and Jarris Walker beside them. Big, powerful lineup, huge, good defenders. You think this is going to be a good start, and you're hoping for maybe a more fun game after what the Pacers have given recently, and Jay Huff and Brook Lopez are dueling to start the game, and Pascal's this tough cover really early in the game, and look at Aaron Nesmith and his awesome, fun defense on Kawhi, even though Kawhi's been really tough. Like, there was all this fun stuff happening. Could this be a game that the Pacers break out of their yucky defense and do something? Even if they lose, they at least look competitive and interesting and do noteworthy things? No. No, that did not happen in this game at all. The Clippers just ran them off the floor, despite some good punches from the Pacers, who had it, close-ish in the second half. But there were some early signs right away that some level of connection was missing on defense. They lose Derrick Jones Jr. in transition for an easy basket, right? So my kind of early thought was the Pacers' defense on individuals, even if unsuccessful, was largely pretty good. But their team defense, they were losing guys behind them on cuts to the basket. They were losing guys in front of them on cuts to the basket. Their transition defense, their team-level stuff was not very good. And, to over-nitpick it at this time of the season would be maybe a little ridiculous, but they just were miserable on that end of the floor, and it was compounded by the Clippers never turned it over early in the game, and the Pacers had quite a few. So not only were the Clippers making, I think, 65% of their first 20 shots, they were 13 for 20, the Pacers had only taken 11 shots at that time, right? So early in the game, and very early, it became clear right away that the way this game was headed was going to be a dominant LA victory, which is fascinating because, again, it did get closer, but you would think that with their better talents all back on the floor, things would look better for the Pacers, and that just didn't happen in the slightest. In fact, if anything, it really went kind of the other way. They got worse on that end of the floor, so a lot for them to clean up. That kind of happened throughout the game, but the number that jumped out to me, Dustin Dopirak sitting right next to me in media row, turned to me and says this after the first quarter. At the end of the first quarter of the game, the Clippers already had 30 points in the paint. Insane. That obviously number did not stay that high. It was limited to 36 the rest of the game. But that was clearly the issue the Pacers were having early, is just the rim was open. Even if they stayed in front of their own guy, some other breakdown happened that made the rim open just way, way, way too much. And that's what this has been for the Pacers since the All-Star break. It's the defense through and through. And there were some offensive issues in this game that I will get to, honestly, momentarily. 107 is not a winning number, but the defense, 130 allowed again. The Grizzlies were under it, but I believe this is their fifth of their last 6 games giving up 130. They did to Charlotte, they did to Philly, they did to Dallas, they did to Washington. Yeah, so 5 out of 6 games giving up 130. I continue to maintain and feel like this is important to stress that yes, their goals have been set and they need to, given those goals, finish with a record in the bottom 4, right? Bottom 3 even better. Okay, that's great, but they need to show more than this. The available players need to prove that, especially post-trade and with their roster largely pretty much set for next year too, outside the draft, this is still a good group when Tyrese Haliburton returns. And I think that there's a lot of flump going on right now that makes it not like a perfect way to evaluate the team, but there has to be something more than this. Like the Grizzlies just beat the Pacers. The Mavericks just beat the Pacers. The Wizards found little successes against the Pacers, right? Don't get me wrong. The results of this game were fine for the Pacers, but those teams are finding something that they could perhaps build on next season. The Grizzlies just figured out that Omax Prosper deserves a standard contract. The Mavs tweaked that roster as well. The Wizards have converted some guys. Like they're finding stuff, and the Pacers need to, but they can't right now because their defense is just terrible. They have been awful on that end of the floor, and so the Pacers do get it close in the third quarter. It's 65-59, and then they were down over 20 points by the end of that quarter because the Clippers finally started to make threes. They were cold to open the game, but they got it going, and then they finished shooting better from three than the Pacers because the Pacers' defense was that bad. So just a miserable defensive game from the Pacers, and I think that they need to, by the end of this trip, have one or two games where they show at least some teeth on that end of the floor. This game was so bad, the Rick Carlisle trope when he says that it was his fault he didn't have the team ready to play, it came out. You know, that doesn't usually happen right after a couple practices as well, but it did. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he believes he didn't, but I can watch the players and tell you that they just executed poorly and played terrible. The other part of this is that offense does happen. In 107, like the ends of the floor are linked. I talk about feedback loops maybe too often. Jarris Walker got going late, and that matters for a reason I would like to talk about later on his way to 17 points. But for a while, this game was basically the following flowchart. At the top, it is Pacers shooter. One Direction says, are you Pascal Siakam or J Huff? And if the answer to that is yes, you are going to be making your shot. Those two were a combined 15 for 27. They both were making threes. Siakam took 14 free throws. They combined for 47 points. The front court combo was quite good. J Huff lightened it up from deep and kept taking them down the stretch. The rest of the Pacer starters, until Walker got going late, were dreadful. Nembhard and Nesmith both had very off nights that I'll get to more in depth in a second, but they were combined 2 for 13. Jarris Walker struggled early. Obi Toppin only took one shot in his limited minutes. Ben Shepherd was 2 for 8 right after I praised him for shooting well recently. Like, they had better performances from their bench. They had a lot of guys right at 50%, but for a long time in this game, nobody, absolutely nobody, could score and get it on target. And that matters a lot in a game where your defense is terrible. And so they were just so disconnected. They weren't able to finish. Their best players, who were all back, look at that, everybody hoping for a more fun game, they didn't get it at all. Instead, they got a miserable game with the exact same issues they've been having of late. And look, this one is not player availability. This one is not lineups. Like, the group that started the game should be better than this. Siakam was awesome, undeniably awesome. We'll talk about him in more detail in a minute. Minus 21. They got blasted in his minutes, right? That's because the starters were terrible. And so the Pacers have a lot to clean up. And they have two tough opponents coming their way in the Lakers, and the Blazers are okay. That they need to, I still maintain they need to show something in those games. And it's going to require a lot of personal reflection because the guys have been bad on defense. A lot of the team has been bad on defense. And that might require a little bit of changing to the second unit. Obi Toppin being back changes the rotation. They're back to playing Siakam with 4 bench guys. Some guys got hurt mid-game. You know, there's a lot of stuff that happened in this game, don't get me wrong. But they played 10 guys, or 11 guys, that can be hard to get around. But they have to defend better than this. They just have to. And that was the thing that they could potentially take out of the season, is they were a better defensive team than offensive team. Zubats might play. Look at that. Instead, they've been miserable on that end, providing no confidence that they can show any level of defensive ability down the stretch. Why should anyone believe that they'll be better than 20th to 15th on defense next year? Anyway, they lost the game, and they lost to Ben Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson, who were linking up together. Mathurin was great. There was a ton of moments with him in the game, before the game, after the game. We talked to him in the locker room. So much to get to that I want to coming up here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, I got to talk to you about two great groups of people. First up is 5-Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There is something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number one pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft, and I would tell you guys about the same one every time. It's the cherry, the bold cherry candy-style flavor, sweet with a light tart edge, classic red fruit profile, bright, punchy taste, smooth, and easy to recognize. It's clean. It's got a slightly tangy finish. There's so many good ones. The grape is delicious. The Fruity Rainbow has been doing well in a lot of these brackets. You can pick many of the flavors to decide for yourself. There's a lot of underrated options out there, and 5-Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. They have a lot of upcoming flavors and innovations planned, including many of the ones I just mentioned. You could find your new favorite flavor, 5-Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. We've also got to talk about Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The Intuit Dome is something. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part has not always been so simple. That is why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You can pull up the Game Time app, you can pick an upcoming NBA game, and you can have tickets locked in within minutes. You can see the all-in price up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can see the view from your seat before you get to the arena. They have zone deals that'll stand out to you. You just choose a section. They'll pick the seats so you save. Great last-minute options, and everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Clippers. Darian will have more on this game from the winner's perspective. And hey, check out the Everyday Club. Get Locked On Pacers ad-free with the Everyday Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at the URL in the description of this episode. Darian's been talking a lot about new players on the Clippers, old faces to you and I. Bennedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson lining up across from the Pacers for the first time in either of their careers. How bizarre. Kobe Brown playing against the Clippers for the first time in his career. It was very fascinating. First of all, Intuit Dome is insane. If you've seen pictures of it, if you've heard about it, it is as insane as it looks. It's awesome. It's really nice. And they got ready to do the Zubats tribute video on this giant halo up in the sky. And before that, they did a Welcome Back Kobe Brown. And I'm glad they did Kobe Brown first so you could get a few cheers before the very grand return video, tribute video for Zubats. Really well done video. It's always easier when they have almost 8 years worth of footage, several new contracts. He was so young when he started there, and he met with Croatian fans, I believe, after the game in LA too. Just really good work from the Clippers on all that stuff. Kobe Brown played pretty well in his return. It was fun to see him and Steve Ballmer meet up right after the game on the court, but 2 for 4 from the field, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He was fine. But obviously the story of it all from the Pacers side was going against Ben Mathurin and against Isaiah Jackson for the first time in those guys' careers. And Jackson has not been playing much for the Clippers, but Yannick Niederhauser got hurt mid-game, and Jackson came in and was great. He was very effective. But obviously Mathurin is the most noteworthy guy who played from the trade in this game. And before the game, you can just see the connection that Mathurin had to so many guys involved with the Pacers organization and the vice versa of that. How many guys within the Pacers, players, coaches, etc., who really cared for him and liked him and miss him. Like, he's warming up. Ben Mathurin is warming up, and Jim Boylan runs across the floor to run over and pretend to contest his shot, right? Like, that stuff, that's fun. And then he finishes his warm up, and instead of going back to the locker room to do whatever, he runs over and gives Quinn Buckner a hug, and then he's talking to Jeremiah Johnson and Chris Denary, and then here come the basketball coordinators. Oh, they're going to talk for a while, and then Pascal Siakam's out there to warm up, and he stops to go give him a hug, and then a couple, communication staffers, and then Eddie Gill, and then a front office person, and then a social media guy. Like, all of them were like, there's Ben, I want to say hi. Like, he is and has that kind of connection with so many of these people, and I think that gets lost a lot when people talk about this stuff and the fits and all this stuff. Like, that matters. That's a part of this. And Mathurin, when I asked him about the fit stuff post-game, called it a fan thing, which was interesting to me because I think it was talked about more by fans and, quite frankly, by me. But it started as a team thing. Rick Carlisle said it, right, in a press conference. It was a real thing that they had to work through as a team. Regardless, they still all valued each other and the work they did to make it work. And Ben Mathurin is still close with so many of these people. You saw it before the game. You saw it after the game. So many celebrating moments as they all connected again at center court. Long list of guys that once again came over to him. I posted the video on my social media feed. It's 2 minutes long, right? So all that said, very clear connection between these people. They also practice together all the time and are very competitive. And if you know anything about Ben Mathurin and the way he talks and the way he plays, you knew that my joke was that he was going to try to score 7,000 points. He did not succeed in reaching that total. He didn't even play half the game. He didn't start. He was behind Kobe Sanders and Chris Dunn. He would have played more had this game mattered or been competitive, but with 9 minutes to go, it was over. Mathurin played 22 minutes and was awesome. He was super fun, busting guys up. Right, he dunks one time with his arm in the rim, and he's yelling at Siakam, and he's another highlight plays, yelling at the Pacers bench. Fun not like over-the-top stuff. That was really enjoyable. He was very good in this game. 8 boards for Ben Mathurin. He was always the Pacers' best rebounding perimeter player very often. 4 assists, 23 points, the second most on the Clippers, plus 32. That was a game high for them. And I actually thought it was interesting. Like, I thought, and this kind of became the case, that he was, certainly trying to score. He took the third most shots on the team and the most free throws. But his first possession, he's doing the Ben Mathurin thing where he's looking up at the rim and it looks like he's about to go right into a pull-up three. And he dimes up his teammate and then the ball moves and they score. And he didn't get an assist because it moved 2 more times, but his pass actually started off the possession. And that's the stuff that he will forever be chasing and working on as a scorer, is the next step of passing and getting the offense going. But then immediately, next play, Ben Shepherd's on him, and he just goes right through him, right? Draws a foul. Then he draws a foul on Kobe Brown, and he had a beautiful overhead pass during a pick and roll to Yannick Niederhauser, which was gorgeous. Beautiful pass. That one led to a Pacers timeout. Like, he was just rocking it, and you could tell that he was having a lot of fun with it. Like, taking all the way that he plays really fits well with how the Clippers are currently constructed. Jarris Garland is eventually going to start and have the ball quite a lot for them, but 1, when Garland was hurt, and 2, in his current recovery timeline. When Kawhi's out of the game, someone's got to have the ball, and Ben Mathurin is that guy, and they don't play so up-tempo that he has to just always think about keep it moving and run to this spot or that spot and interact with this guy and do this thing. He can actually take the time to assess the situation and size up and see, should I do something? Should I attack? Should I ISO? I'm very good at that. I'm Ben Mathurin. And he could do it, and he's doing it very well, and he did it very well in this game. And he still had some moments where he'd get slammed by a screen and the defensive possession was over for him. But overall, I thought he played very well. And he has been playing well for them. He fits better with the Clippers than he did with the Pacers, which was always a benefit. And which is why, right after the trade, some people seem to have forgotten that I said this. I said he's going to be better for the Clippers than he was for the Pacers. 1, because he has years of NBA experience. And 2, that style fits him well. I think Kawhi's leadership and Ty Lue's coaching style fit him pretty well. And you can see exactly how all that comes together to suit him in a basketball environment, right? He gets shots that he likes, and it's not to say that he's not going to have games where it doesn't click as well or the decision-making isn't where it needs to be. But in this game, when he was particularly motivated and locked in and getting to go against a lot of his old buddies, the guys that were around him as he grew from literally, as he mentioned in that thing where he was, just a few days past his 19th birthday, he gets drafted. All these guys have been with him his whole career. He gets to go against them and show them, how he feels about this game. And he played quite well. So credit to him for that. And he also, in particular, linked up with Isaiah Jackson, which was fun. A behind-the-back pass to Jackson in the third quarter. Jackson getting Mathurin back as the two interacted on a ball screen in the fourth quarter. And Jackson had his best game as a Clipper by far. He had barely played for them. He's their third center behind Brook Lopez and Yannick Niederhauser. And then Yannick got hurt in the game, and they turned to Jackson just before halftime, and he was very productive. 4 for 6 from the field, hits 2 of his 3 free throws, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks, including some emphatic ones on his way to 10 points, and he was +4. So those two both played very well, up to a level that they have shown with the Pacers they're capable of, and why they, either in Jackson's case got the contract he had, a belief that he could be this player more often, or in Mathurin's case could potentially get in the summer. And then they talked in the locker room after the game, and I think they both had, similar kind of outlooks in that. Were they surprised to actually get traded and that trades are surprising? Yes. More often than not, trades don't happen. But was it out of the realm of possibility for either of them that getting traded could happen? No. They understood the situation and they were talked to by the front office about it, right before, and then bada bing, bada boom, there it goes. And, Mathurin obviously had his comments about, and Mathurin, did not say anything sort of that he was happy to be dealt or that he's so much more excited about the current fit. He was very reflective about how much he actually grew into the player he is now with the Pacers and with those successful seasons that the team had. You can watch the whole interview. It'll be on my personal YouTube channel by the time this is up. I think the Wi-Fi in this hotel is so bad it takes forever for anything to upload, but very reflective in a positive way. And he always gets his situation and what's in front of him. And now the situation in front of him is the Clippers need him to score lots of points, and he's very good at that. And then he'll have a chance to get paid in the summer. So really fun to see all of that come together, right? Both teams having moments to reflect on their guys, all of them playing pretty well or up to standards or above standards, and then all getting to talk about it right before or after the game was just super fun. And clearly a lot of happy campers to see old friends and old faces and get to go against them because these are competitors when all is said and done. But Mathurin was great. Mathurin showed the exact reasons why many fans are still so infatuated by his skill and what he can do, and now he can bring those things to the Clippers. And I was way too focused on him during the game. I had some moments where I was like, it's the second quarter and the Pacers surge and they cut it from 23 to like 10 or something. And I'm like, I didn't write anything down. Like what just happened? I spent the whole time watching Ben Mathurin and what he was doing and who he's interacting with and who he's guarding. Like he's guarding Siakam and the Pacers are not going at that matchup enough and all this stuff. And I'm like watching way too much of one guy. It was very fun to watch those interactions and to watch this all unfold. And Mathurin wins round one. They'll come to Indy later this exact month, and we'll get to do this exact conversation again, but in a much different setting. And Isaiah Jackson, credit to him, was good too. And he'll have some opportunities to play. I think Yannick, they said, is going to miss at least a couple games for the Clippers. So many other little note things I want to get to from the game, and then some actual big note things in terms of injuries and energy and things of that nature. That's all coming up here to close out today's Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, a quick break so we can talk about TurboTax. It must be tax time. But for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes, it's a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, you're emailing back and forth wondering, do they really get your situation? But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations worldwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot, and just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local, find a store near you, and book your appointment. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen should be Locked On NBA Game Night, so you can hear me and Ryan Blackburn talk about this game and every other game from around the league, but also Locked On Hornets, because that is just apparently the best team ever. They're now 24-9 when all five of their current starting five are available in the same game. Hornets are really good. They're going to be a tough team to beat in the first round of the playoffs. They're getting so good that everyone is talking about them, and contrarian takes are coming. Oh, they're not actually that good. They actually are that good. Okay, let's finish this one up. Quite the game. Many things to get to. Usually this is where I do my notebook section where there's a lot of smaller notes. Here's a couple plays I thought were cool, blah, blah, blah. And then I do have a lot of those. But there were three very significant things that happened in this game. Two really significant ones and one less significant. One is Micah Potter got hurt, and it was his opposite ankle of the one that he's been listed on the injury report as having. In the second quarter, he's like jumping around the court on one foot. He can barely walk. And then he catches the ball and he takes a three, and he like tried to run down the floor on defense. They had to get him out. He went to the tunnel, and then he went to a different tunnel, and then he played in the second half, but he wasn't moving the greatest. So we'll see how he comes out of this. Very significant one, because any injury is at this stage of the season. Two, because they only have two centers. Without Zubats, they only have two centers. Like, is Obi Toppin going to play the five? Is Kobe Brown about to play some five? Is Jarris Walker about to play some five? Siakam, like, they don't have Furphy. So we'll see what happens. Normally, this would be the part where I say maybe they could do something with their two ways to sign a center, but does it actually matter? It kind of does. You want guys in normal positions, but it matters less. Anyway, so that's significant. Keep an eye on that. He's now hurt both of his ankles. Two is Cam Jones didn't play at all. This was his first DNP in a while. He was the only active Pacer who did not get an appearance. His contract is such that it's currently half guaranteed for next season. It becomes fully guaranteed if he plays in 41 games this season. He has now, by virtue of this game, missed 38. He's played 24 and a 62. So he can only miss 3 more the rest of the way. He's got to play in 17 of the final 20 games. Injuries, decisions, whatever that may be. Quentin Jackson getting a small amount of guaranteed money next year certainly makes this complex, right? Do they want Jones in the fold? Should they? What they want to do about that? I'm not suggesting anything about the future. I'm just saying it's going to be fascinating to see if Jones gets to that 41 game mark. Quentin Jackson, speaking of, got a lot of credit from Rick Carlisle for providing energy. And that is, of course, something that he always does. You know, he's back at home in California. This is, I believe, the closest arena in California to where he grew up. But I found it noteworthy from that perspective that he came in to close the first half. He checked in the game just for a defensive possession. And I thought, not Shepard, not Walker, not McConnell, Quentin Jackson is on the floor. And I think that is very telling of how they think of him and what his role could be, or the role he's fighting for could be next season. So, credit to him. He's obviously a pesky defender, but it was very noteworthy that happened, and that was a substitution pattern that the Pacers went to. Okay, I haven't talked about Siakam at all. I feel bad. It's been so long, but so much happened in this game. He was just fantastic. His first game since suffering that wrist injury, and he actually fell on it in the game, and it was clearly bothering him for a second, but 14 shots for 29 points is insane. Like, the Clippers have some dudes. They're a good team. They won the game by a bunch of points. But their fours, Derek Jones was often not guarding him. Kawhi was very rarely guarding him. And so a lot of times it was like a bigger guard. Like, they don't have a lot of stockier forwards besides those two guys. And so he would feast anytime he got an early matchup against any of those dudes. So quick transition, little duck-ins, all the stuff that he can really do. He got double figures so quick, going right at Mathurin early in this game. He was just balling. He's so good. This has been a known thing. But it especially looks good for him on nights where the rest of the Pacers can't do anything. He could do anything. Like, he was just fantastic. Like, at one point, my only note is your name Pascal Siakam? No, you will not be scoring, right? That was literally how the Pacers offense worked in this game, but just the classic Siakam within the flow of the offense, baskets that only he can find in his 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a lot for him in a 23-point loss. We'll see how they manage those the rest of the way. The other note that I had about Siakam is, do you see it in this game where in many stretches that he's playing that role that he's had for so long, where it's him and the bench? It's 4 bench players and Siakam, where I and Dustin just did this, when we talked about debating Shepherd and Walker for next season of like, well, the bench might need a ball handler, right? And the Pacers don't really play all 5 of their second unit guys together at the same time. And Siakam can be that ball handler. Like, they don't need to be like acquiring a certain type of player. They just have to strategize their rotation a certain way. And I know that intuitively, and then I see it happen. I'm like, yeah, Siakam can be their second unit ball handler. But a thing to keep in mind is, like, it's not just hockey subs with units, as I, over discuss that kind of thing. Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith just could not make anything. Forgettable games for both of them. Nesmith drove to the cup for his only make of the game right at the start of the second half. Nembhard was 1 for 5 and wasn't even looking at the rim that much. Those two were just really off. They couldn't even create rim pressure. Nesmith was really trying. Those two, should have more chances to work on their offensive game down the stretch. And this was neither of them. Even Nesmith played under 20 minutes. I mean, he was returning from injury, but still, Nembhard played half the game. They were both not looking the greatest. Really, really rough. Even after, Nesmith contributed to a great start to the second half, where Huff hit a couple threes. Huff was quite good at finding his spots, getting open from deep, as he does. That's the J. Huff experience. Ben Shepherd had maybe the best defensive possession I've ever seen from him. At one point in the third quarter, he was blowing up 2 actions in a row, staying with his man, and then all of a sudden the Clippers flip it to the opposite corner and Derek Jones Jr. is wide open. But I want to give Ben Shepherd credit on a game where he was largely forgettable. I think he only made, he was 2 for 8. He had one of the best defensive possessions I've ever seen from him moving his feet and blowing up 2 actions. And Jarris Walker did, he was not particularly awesome for a lot of this game. He played in garbage time with the rest of kind of whatever group. I think he had 8 points, maybe less. Yeah, he had 6 points after the 6-minute mark in this game. So he played 42 minutes with 6 points. A quiet performance. And that's about, the Pacers made some final subs. I should have found this before. The Pacers made some final subs with about 9:51 to go before some, tweaks to their bench down the stretch. So he was playing a lot with some of the end-of-bench guys late in this game. And so, obviously, it's easy to say, oh, well, he scored 11 points in the last 6 minutes. That really inflates his stats. That's true, right? His 17-5-5 game, which is good, was, inflated by a lot of numbers late. However, I have to be consistent with something I've said earlier, and I brought this up when they played Detroit, and I brought it up a few times since. There are going to be situations, and there have been in this Pacers season, where the players on the floor, both for the Pacers and the other team, are maybe not the greatest. And in those moments, if you are a legitimately good player, you will stand out. You will rise up above the rest of the players, and you will stand out for something, right? Quentin Jackson, so good in Brooklyn, right? The Pacers won that game with the Cam Jones buzzer beater. Quentin Jackson was amazing. Same thing against Utah, right? And I always point back to the end of the season before the Wemby draft when the Pacers maybe didn't put their best foot forward. And like Haliburton always had good stats, and Buddy Hield did, Shea Brissett did. Like, those guys were good players, and they ended up being rotation players for a couple years. So even in a crappy environment where winning isn't the priority, the best players stand out. And Walker, when that became the case in this game, was awesome down the stretch. And so he deserves a lot of credit for that he was better than the rest of the guys on the floor at that moment in the game. And that is Pacers Clippers. Dramatic day. I'll have a story about Mathurin and Jackson and all sorts of these things. It's also 4:15 in the morning Eastern time. Thankfully, much more reasonable here, but I did travel today, so I'm very tired, so I'm going to stop now and edit this thing. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. We'll be back tomorrow talking more Pacers, and then at Pacers Lakers on Friday. Till then, everybody have a wonderful day.